From Mrs. Fraser being nothing like she was in the books, to a fan saying that she's ruined Jamie's life at every turn, here's why Outlander fans find it difficult to warm to Claire. As you guys know, Outlander is the adaptation of Diana Gabaldon's books, which have been around since 1991. The show premiered in 2014, but the most disappointing part of it all was just how badly they portrayed Claire. I mean, fans of the books were dying to see how her character would play out on the screen, considering how the entire story revolves around her. But here's the thing. When the show finally came out, viewers noticed a huge difference between how Claire was written in the books and how she's portrayed on screen, and trust me, they were not happy. One fan took to Reddit, claiming that they're tired of Claire never listening to anyone and always doing what she wants, even if it's senseless. Others jumped on the bandwagon, agreeing that Claire never listens to Jamie and always causes drama in the show. When Jamie asked her to promise him that she won't leave the glade, it was for her own good, but she did it anyway. And guess what happened when he asked her to stay away from Galus Duncan? She went straight to meet him, making sure that she attracts trouble wherever she goes. Her entitled attitude has driven fans nuts, but that's not all. Viewers are also sick of every episode being filled with crazy drama. One person pointed out how Claire never misses a chance to stir up trouble, and that both her and Jamie have a knack for falling into disasters wherever they go. In the process, they end up putting innocent lives at risk. And even though they don't intend for the situation to get sticky, it just gets annoying at one point. But if you're looking for an explanation for her character's massive change, here's an interesting perspective. Outlander Season 4 was written by a new team, and they had a different take on Claire and Jamie's dynamic. They made Claire this super surgeon, with Jamie as her trusty sidekick. And it wasn't just the fans who hated it. Even the actors Katrina Balfe and Sam Heughan couldn't make sense of what was going on, and they knew that it wasn't true to the books. But the most persistent complaint fans have is that she's too nosy. According to a Reddit user, Claire tries to get involved in everyone's business, even when nobody asked her to. And I mean, it's hard to argue with that because Claire's always got an opinion about everything. Some fans see her as a problem solver and laud her for her willingness to help others. But the rest? They'd be happy without it, and I'll tell you why. In Season 2, Claire tried to break up Mary Hawkins and Alex Randall, who was Blackjack Randall's younger brother. A fan on Reddit declared how this was straight-up evil, and by meddling in their love story, Claire condemned Mary to live with a rapist. Sure, her decision stemmed from the fact that she cared for Frank, but she acted rashly, not knowing that Frank was related to Alex instead of Blackjack himself. And so, this is why fans would love for dear Mrs. Fraser to not poke into other people's problems, especially when these problems exist in the 18th century, and there's a big reason for that. She doesn't understand 18th century views, and most of the time, she just makes matters worse for the people around her. Everyone knows that times change and beliefs evolve. Plus, let's face it, the 20th century brought about huge shifts in women's rights, equality for minorities, and accessible education. But even though Claire appears to be a smart woman, she can't wrap her head around the fact that people in the 18th century don't think like folks in the future. Education isn't widely available. Heck, most people can't even read. But here's the kicker. Instead of helping them in the ways of their own time, she flaunts her future knowledge and acts like she's better than everyone else around her. It's no surprise that people find it hard to accept her because she loves letting them know that she's nothing like them. A fan begs someone to tell Claire that her education doesn't make her views superior in the 18th century. Her attitude explains why she struggles to make friends, and one episode perfectly shows this. Despite the captain patiently explaining why the crew believes in superstitions on ships, Claire flat out refused to accept their beliefs. She kept arguing, even though she could have appreciated the captain's willingness to enlighten her. Look, I get it. There are times when challenging views and opinions is necessary, like when Jamie strapped her with a belt in Season 1. But the woman needs to learn when to pick her battles, because with her current attitude, there's too much that fans just can't accept in her character. For instance, viewers have called her out for making selfish, horrible decisions. A fan took to Reddit and recalled her resistance to Jamie seeking revenge against Blackjack, which pissed almost everybody off. Because here's the thing. Jamie deserved that revenge, and even if Claire didn't agree with his methods, she should have tried to see it through Jamie's eyes, who had endured unimaginable torture at the man's hands. Instead, in Season 2, she made Jamie promise to wait a year before going after Randall, because she wanted to make sure that her first husband, Frank, would still be born. But most fans saw this as her inability to choose between Frank and Jamie, and her indecisiveness has driven fans wild. According to a fan, Claire should have just stayed in her own time and spared Jamie's life from all this stress. But Claire isn't just selfish. She's also irrationally jealous. Remember when she got all worked up over Lord John Grey having feelings for Jamie? I mean, the guy did so much to help Jamie out, but she forgot all of that because of how blinded she was by her jealousy. The same thing happened with her jealousy towards Sandy, but some fans argue that she had valid reasons. For example, when Sandy showed up at Claire's graduation party, it was a total embarrassment. Frank should have known better than to invite her, but let's face it, Claire has to learn to deal with her feelings. Getting all riled up in front of young Bree was definitely not the best idea. But here's the thing. Claire's relationship with Frank is a major reason why fans just don't like her. Some of the viewers took it upon themselves to narrate the series of events how they see it, and they recalled how Claire came back from her adultery trip only to give Frank the cold shoulder like she's intentionally punishing him. She tried her best to play the victim and show herself as a woman trapped with a man she no longer loved, but none of it was Frank's fault. That man has never been the bad guy, and the only time he's done questionable things is when Claire pushed him to it. But there are some fans who feel that she's always trying to steal the spotlight, like when she joined Jamie on their journey to Jamaica in Season 3. A fan on Reddit claimed that Claire had no real reason to tag along, since it wouldn't be useful to Jamie, who was desperately trying to find his nephew. But other fans pointed out how she saved multiple lives aboard the Porpoise when it was hit by a devastating typhoid fever outbreak, bringing her medicine skills to use. But most fans think that she's always overstepping boundaries. I mean, it's gotten to a point where one fan on Reddit declared that they feel hot, blinding rage whenever Claire opens her mouth. According to them, she just wants to dominate the weak people around her and boost herself as an all-knowing time traveler, which frustrates viewers to no end. But wait for it, because I've yet to tell you the toughest take a fan has for Claire. A Reddit user called her out for ruining Jamie's life, and they weren't joking about it. They claimed that Claire is the absolute worst, as she made enemies right off the bat in France, forcing Jamie to relive his darkest moments in Wentworth Prison. It's a tough pill to swallow, but ever since Claire traveled back to the past, Jamie's had to sacrifice his life countless times, just to save Claire from the consequences of her own mistakes. Remember the time she was about to get burnt at the stake because people thought that she was a witch? Yeah, none of that would have happened if she just laid low. But she did the exact opposite of that, pulling Jamie into danger with herself. This is why one fan said that they simply despise Claire because they see her as manipulative and believe she's not bright enough to realize that she can't change the past, even though she's failed countless times. So there you have it, folks. From a fan claiming that she has ruined Jamie's life at every turn, to Mrs. Fraser being nothing like she was in the books. That was why Outlander fans find it difficult to warm to Claire.